Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of In Lay Terms. I'm your host, Peyman Askari, and today we are joined with one of my fellow PPC candidates, Miss Deborah Perrier. Is that correct?
It is. Yeah, just like the water.
That's good. That's what I was going for. I was worried it would be pronounced differently. Deborah, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well. Very well. A little excited, a little nervous, but I'm doing very well overall.
We were talking earlier. You've said you've done these interviews hundreds of times before.
Yeah. This is my first. So this is a real blessing. A little scary, but it's pretty exciting because I've been looking at all of your previous live streams and I'm excited.
You're doing a lot better than I did the first time I was in front of a camera. It was on the Kid Carson show, and I was a nervous wreck.
Well, I must be a very good actress.
If you are nervous, you're hiding it well.
Good.
So we're
Good.
going to start, as always, by bringing up my favorite audience member. Prairie says, "Good evening."
Good evening.
So you have the first person watching your first interview. Um, Deborah, I guess I know you're not new to this, but usually what we do is I get my audience to my guests to tell the audience a little about them. So maybe if you could start by telling us, where you were born, where you grew up, what kind of environment you grew up in, and I don't know what you've been doing for a living lately.
Okay. Well, where I was born was Niagara Falls, Ontario. I actually lived 1 mile from the falls, and I grew up there until I was 14, and then my parents moved to quaint little Aurelia, and I met my husband there. We married in Aurelia, and then my family dispersed. There was only myself left with my husband in Aurelia, and the rest of my family, my parents and my siblings, all moved to the Quebec area because my parents originally were from Quebec. So I've been in Ontario my entire life. And in 2012, I made a move up to this area, to the Quebec area. I made the move up to Quebec area, but just 3 years ago, moved now into the Ontario Plantagenet area. So, and my childhood and my upbringing probably is made for a different show. You don't have enough time. It was an interesting childhood, that's for sure. Nothing easy, but I believe that's where I got my strength from and the power to overcome and survive. So that survival mode has carried me through a lot. As I grew up and when I got married, I went to school and graduated in 1992 from nursing, and I had an amazing 29.7 months, 29.7 month career in nursing, an incredible calling, and it was a calling. It was a joy of my life, and I sustained an injury that didn't allow me to stay on my feet for the 8 and 12-hour shifts anymore. So I kind of had to change gears, and I ended up jumping from the frying pan into the fire by working for the federal government. So I've been working for the federal government for the last, it's going to be 7 years in June. So talk about a culture shock. Two very different worlds.
So you currently work for the federal government.
Yes, I do. And if I tell you where, I'm going to have to kill you. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay, no, we won't ask. We won't ask. There's another candidate. I think she is currently still working for Global Affairs Canada. And at the time that I interviewed her, it was hilarious because that morning that scandal broke about Global Affairs purging their entire database. and she had to announce it during the interviews.
Oh boy. No, nothing like that. I got a pretty calm job.
That was in case anybody wants to go check it out. That was Lindsay, who's one of the candidates out in Quebec. Lindsay Tyrion, I believe.
Okay, yes. All right.
Deborah, I had a follow-up question, and oh, here we go. We forgot to mention. Can you tell the audience what riding are you in?
Oh, I'm in the Prescott, Russell, and Cumberland area.
Yeah, I don't know any of the ridings in Ontario.
Okay. It's east of Ottawa. I'm about an hour east outside of headquarters in downtown Ottawa.
So you're actually in the belly of the beast.
Yes, I am in the belly of the beast. That's a really good way to put that.
I interviewed a former PPC candidate. Do you know, and I forgot her name, the girl who wrote Fisman Fraud? She's a very famous Canadian, but she ran in Ottawa, and she said that she was in the belly of the beast. That's why I remember that.
Okay, no, I've not heard of her. No. Fairly new to politics, actually, myself.
So why did you decide to actually go into politics?
Oh, well, that's a long and a deep question, but like pretty much everybody else, my extent of experience in politics was wrapped up in about 2 weeks prior to an election. I would do my due diligence. I would go and find out about all of those who were running. I'd find out about all their platforms. I would then watch any debates that had been held. I would pray, and then I would go and vote. And that would be the extent of my political journey, period. I was one of those people who trusted the government wholeheartedly that they had my best interests at heart, and went about my life until 2020. So I went from being staunch liberal, many years liberal, to being conservative. And in 2020, I went from being conservative to being completely and utterly hopeless. I thought, if these are my only two choices, what am I going to do? And I actually experienced a little bit of deep dive and a bit of depression, and my eyes really opening to the fact that, okay, I've been asleep for a long time, and it's time to wake up and pay attention. And I was one of the ones, whether you like it or not, I was at the Freedom Convoy several times. And it was actually there that I met Maxime Bernier. And I met him, and then I kept watching wholeheartedly all of the legacy media waiting and watching for my candidate of choice, Mr. Pierre Poilievre, to get up there and to say something about the unlawful mandates or the government overreach, or I was waiting for him to stand up and speak for his people, and I didn't see it. I didn't hear it, and I watched for it. And after I met Max at the Freedom Convoy, I had a chance to speak with him just for a few minutes, and it got me thinking, and I started watching all of his whenever he was on, whenever he was being interviewed, I was watching for everything that he had to say. Started following him on social media, and I liked what I saw. I liked the fact that he didn't waver. I liked that he said what he meant, and he meant what he said. And then I started hearing comments like, "Oh yeah, well they fired him from the Conservatives. Why would you want to go for somebody that they fired from the Conservatives? So I went into a deep dive and I found out about why he chose to leave the Conservatives. And what I walked away with was, this was a man who not only said what he meant and meant what he said, but he stood for his principles, and he didn't bow and he didn't pander. And he walked away from what he knew and what he was comfortable with to stand for those truths and to fight for what he knew was right. And I went from hopeless to full of hope and excited, and felt for the first time that we actually had hope here in Canada. Never in a million years did I even consider running for politics. No, my job was to just vote and then go on with life. But after the last election, I really felt compelled to move forward and to stand up, because during that period of time, it was very, very discouraging. Any social media, everything was all about everybody proving what they knew. We already knew it. But then I started getting the question about, so what are we going to do about it? What are we going to do about it? We need to stop talking and we need to start acting. And it was around that time in 2023, I think around the end of 22 and beginning of 23, that I really felt the push. And I started trying to figure out, do I go municipal? Do I go provincial? Do I go federal? I had no idea. And that started me on the journey of where I am today. And it seemed every time I tried to attend a political event, the doors would close every time. But then all of a sudden, I received an invitation to go to the revision conference in Ottawa, held by Max, the PPC, in August, just this past August. And when I set foot in there, I just knew that talking was not enough anymore, that I needed to step into the ring.
So you actually went to the revision conference as a citizen, not as a candidate?
Yes, I did.
Cool.
I knew I was being called, but I didn't know to what I was being called. And I thought the best place to find out would be to go and to see and to hear and to listen and to meet other people and to network and to talk to others who were candidates, to get a feel for the land, so to speak. And when I got there, my heart was completely sold out. PPC is everything that I really strongly believe in. They are everything, truth. And to me, truth is paramount. And which is kind of why I chose this format as well, because people need to know who I am. People need to see who I am. I'm not fake. I'm not an actress. I'm not a career politician by no means. and it is very important to me, for people to see the truth, the transparency. I'm not just another pretty face. I am serious about making some radical changes in our country, and I kind of felt that the best place for me to do that would be at the federal level. So talk about jumping in with both feet.
Yeah, you went right to the top. Deborah, we have a question from the audience. Sue Kellen Dyer, very, very bright individual. She has a space. She interviews a lot of candidates. She says, how did you feel about the response to the Freedom Convoy by the Ottawa bureaucrats?
It was disgraceful. It was absolutely disgraceful. I actually, for the first time ever, did a live. I don't know how successful it was because I'd never done one before, but I literally put my phone on, and after we were called misogynistic, the fringe minority, by our prime minister, that had been probably the fourth time that I went down to the convoy, and I had never experienced such a beautiful, peaceful, jovial, loving, compassionate. It was just the most amazing thing that I've ever experienced in my life. Still to this day, there's nothing that compares. The atmosphere was very powerful, potent, full of hope, full of encouragement. People, strangers, we're hugging strangers. It's like we were all of like mind. We were all there, and we knew that something big was happening. And I think we all fell in love with truckers, like on a whole new different level. So, and watching, as I said earlier, watching to see my candidate of choice, Mr. Pierre Poilievre, to see what he was going to say, to see what he was going to do. And the only thing I ever heard him say in regards to when he was questioned about the convoy was, well, if the current establishment isn't happy about what's happening, perhaps they should come out and speak to the people, which I kind of thought was a little bit funny considering he never had. So it was a lie. It was a lie. It's one of the things that really opened my eyes to the establishment, to the legacy media and the propaganda machine that they had made, and how they were trying to turn this beautiful, peaceful rally into this terrible, violent. The only people that were violent were them.
Yeah, the crackdown was horrible. I thought it was a very beautiful thing, everybody coming together, and then it was suffocated, extinguished, like that beautiful flame was gone because of the EMA invocation.
Yeah, those bouncy castles were really dangerous for the establishment, you know. Yeah.
Yeah, the media did their job well. I wanted to say something about Pierre Trudeau. It's really started to hurt him, but I noticed this with the truckers. When he was in front of the CBC, he showed a different side of him where he's more careful, reserved, he calculates his words, and he sits on the fence. You know, he would say, well, this is a protest. Yes, it's a little bit annoying, but thankfully, you know, they haven't done anything illegal yet. And then when he goes into a friendly environment, he was on an interview with Jordan Peterson. Then he said what I wanted him to say in front of the truckers, which was that the media portrayed these guys like it was like a war zone, anarchy, when in fact it was very peaceful. So Mr. Poilievre, if you're listening, if you want to win, you know, go with the second option, not the first.
Amen to that. Because I've never seen that interview, because that, you know, I probably would have fallen off my chair. Yeah, because anytime I ever seen an interview with Justin Trudeau, it was always extremely negative towards the fringe minority, through those of towards all of us that were going against what the government was trying to push, who were standing up for independence and freedom, and, you know, fighting back against the government overreach.
So they did this with COVID and the truckers. And then recently, Jagmeet Singh came out where he said that Donald Trump and the Americans shouldn't be invited to the G7 meeting coming up. It's this whole leaning into hatred and anger and trying to whip people up. You mentioned earlier that you're an honest person. Like, what you see is what you get. How do you message that with your constituents? Is it simply as easy as just treating them like, you know, decent human beings? Do you make yourself available? How do you do that?
All of the above. They when I connect with somebody, it's like, what you see is what you get. I'm not a career politician. I'm open. I'm honest. I want to hear. I want to hear your ideas. I want to hear your solutions. I want to hear what it is that's important to you. And I usually start out pretty much every conversation with the fact that I'm not perfect. I don't have all the answers. But if I don't have an answer, you can bet your bottom dollar that I'll find that answer and I'll get back to you. I don't claim to know all the answers. I'm still, like, this has been so new for me that I have literally, I work a full-time job, and 2 hours a day is spent on the road to and from the office. So I'm getting home at 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. I'm coming into my office, my home office, and I'm researching and I'm reading and I'm reading, and then I'm reading some more. And I still don't know all of our platforms and the depths. I watched one of your interviews. I think it was Mr. Skinner. Yeah. I watched one of your previous interviews where your interviewee mentioned the fact that politics is like an onion with many layers of skin. And I'm only like at layer 2. And I'm not afraid to say that, because I'm learning, and I'm learning with you. And I'm not going to make a bunch of promises that I don't believe myself that I can achieve. I have this compelling that I have to move forward. The power does not come from within me. It comes from my strength. It comes from God, who I serve. I'm a very strong, faith-filled Christian woman. And my mandate that I feel that has been laid on my heart is to bring God back into the parliament. And with that, I come across with people as, listen, you need to know, I am pro-life. I believe in God. I believe in 2 genders. I believe these are the things that I stand for. I cannot stand for something I don't believe in. I can't talk about something that I don't believe in. So I am who I am. And usually it's well received, and so far it's been, thank God. I've had a few people, slam the door in my face that said, I'm liberal. And it's like, well, there's no helping those ones, but you know what? There's a saying that you can't fix certain things, and we'll just leave that at that.
Yeah, some things are beyond repair. Sorry if you heard that echo. There's a fellow People's Party candidate on Arnold Haino. He is also a Christian, and he says that the most important thing of any founding document in Canada is the charter. That goes the first few lines, the rule of law and the supremacy of God. How does God translate, or faith translate for you in how you think the government should be run?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked that question. The very foundations upon which this country was built on the premise and on the decrees of Scripture. I've often heard it say that, you have to keep, there needs to be a separation between state and the church. There can't be, because our country was built on the very foundation of the Scriptures. You can't separate the two, because everything that was built up was built on that foundation. And in removing that from the House of Parliament, and removing God from our daily activities and from our government and from our schools, look what it's done. If you go back and see when they removed prayer from the school, it wasn't long after that the increase in school shootings, in school violence. And actually, it was I think it was 2 years ago was the last one. And I was at work when we heard this happening, and I had about 2 or 3 people at work come to me and say, this is your God. Your God allows this. I was like, whoa. He's not there. He was booted out a long time ago. You can't blame him because he's not there. So my mandate, what God has called me to do, is to bring him back in to the house. And I plan on doing that. When people see me, they're going to know who I am. They are going to very clearly know. Actually, can I share something with you
Sure.
in regards to that? One of my pastor's sermons, she read a letter from a pastor, and he wrote this letter the night before he was being executed.
Your pastor was being executed?
No, not my pastor. This other pastor that wrote the letter, okay? He wrote this letter the night before he was being executed. He was being persecuted, okay? So the next day he was scheduled for execution. And that night, rather than woe is me, rather than feeling hopeless and lost, he did what Paul did. He sat with pen and paper and he wrote this letter. When my pastor read this letter to the church, to our congregation, it sank so deep into who I was, and it spoke so loudly that I thought that could be me writing that letter, because it's who I am, and it's what my mandate is. And if you're okay with that, I'd like to read that.
Go ahead.
Now, I have changed a few of the words to personalize it for myself. So the actual letter is called, I am a part of the fellowship of the unashamed. The die has been cast. I have stepped over the line. The decision has been made. I am a disciple of Jesus Christ. I won't look back, let up, slow down, back away, or be still. My past is redeemed, my present makes sense, and my future is secure. I'm done with low living, sight walking, small planning, smooth knees, colorless dreams, and dwarfed goals. I no longer need preeminence, prosperity, prominence, position, promotions, plaudits, or popularity. I now live by presence. I lean by faith, love by patience, lift by prayer, and labor by power, the power of God himself. My pace is set, my gait is fast, my goal is heaven. My road is narrow, my way is rough, my companions are few. My guide, though, however, is reliable, and my mission is clear. I cannot be bought, compromised, deterred, lured away, turned back, diluted, or delayed. I will not flinch in the face of sacrifice, hesitate in the presence of adversity, or negotiate at the table of the enemy. I will not ponder at the pool of popularity or meander in the maze of mediocrity. I am a disciple of Christ. I will go until he returns. I will give until I drop, preach until all know, and work until heaven comes. And when he comes to get his own, he will have no problem recognizing me. And it is on that premise that I move forward. I have no fear. I have no doubt that I've been called. And I have no doubt that I have a specific mandate. And I will achieve that mandate because he goes before me.
So way back at the beginning, you said you changed a couple of words to personalize it. Did you change I have crossed the Rubicon to I have crossed the line? Just curious.
Yeah, kind of.
No, I was just joking there.
No, more towards the giving parts. Giving, like one of the lines was, I'm done with chintzy giving. So it's like this wasn't about money. This is about character, stance, belief, faith, and holding the line, and not pandering for votes, not pandering to different people and saying what you want to say. Or I'm not the type of person that's going to say whatever it is you want me to say. I'm going to speak the truth. Even if I don't like the truth, I'm going to speak the truth. That's
I'm laughing because I don't like pandering either. And whenever I have to pander, I always preamble it So someone says like, what's your position on this? I'm like, well, this is my position, but the voters won't buy it. So I'm beholden to the voters. Like, if they don't care about the victims of the vaccine, I'm not going to say that, that there were no victims, but like, I can't make the voters, I can't make up their minds for them.
No, but I'm not going to change mine for theirs either. It works both ways.
Yeah. Like, I have my own opinion. I understand
Yep.
the voters don't want to hear it, but I'm not going to lie to them about it.
Yep. And we can't. They need to know, they're going to know my stance. They're going to know how I feel. They're going to know I respect and honor them, and I respect their choice. Absolutely. But, talking about COVID and that debacle, I actually was penalized from my job and was put on leave without pay for 3 months because I strongly felt that to take that, to bow down and to, follow suit, was against who I am, was against who I was. And that, I think, is one of the reasons why I love Max so much, is that he relates. I have my beliefs, and nobody is going to ever move me off of those beliefs. But I can still respect you if you choose to do that. I can still, it's your life, but don't force yourself. Don't force your beliefs any more than you want me to force mine. But my faith, when I say that I am going to take a step back and bring God back into the house, my mandate is how that translates is to bring unity, not division. It's to bring love back into the house, to look at those people across the aisle with honor and respect, not sarcasm, not schoolyard childish behavior that I see whenever I watch Question Period. It just infuriates me. It's like, that's not what my tax dollars were meant to do. And you know what? Let's have an open and honest conversation, not dramatic, not drama, not pretend. Let's get down to business, because that's what we're here for. And I know I've got a lot to learn, and I'm probably going to learn some of the things the hard way. But there's a quote, actually. My pastor, again, she's had quite an influence on my life. When I first mentioned to her that I was feeling called to run, she said, "Have you ever seen the movie Amazing Grace with Amazing Grace, the true story of William Wilberforce?" No. Have you ever heard of that? I strongly, strongly, strongly recommend it. When I first felt like I was called, my first initial reaction was, what? Me? Like, I am so not that person. I'm not a good speaker. I don't have any idea of politics or the way things are run or how we behave, or I have no idea about politics. Like, I mean, zero. Okay. And she said, so she invited a few of us, and we got together and we watched this movie, and it changed my life. And it was literally in this, the movie was about William Wilberforce. I'm just going to read it here. I've got it on the screen. William Wilberforce and his efforts to end the British transatlantic slave trade. I think it was like something like 20 years. He was a member of Parliament, and he fought for the end of the slave trade. And his
this is an iconic guy, right? This was way before the U.S. Civil War.
Yes. And him and his buddy, fellow MP Minister Pitt. Okay, I'm not familiar with British politics, but I'm hardly familiar with Canadian politics, let alone British politics. But in this one segment, Pitt calls Mr. Wilberforce aside and he says, I hear that the Prime Minister is ill and stepping down, and I am going to run for Prime Minister. And William, to him, he says, no one of our age has ever taken power. And then Pitt's response to that is what changed my life. He leaned in and he said, which is why we're too young to realize that certain things are impossible. So we're going to do them anyway. And it was that one line that said, if I don't know, then I don't know. And if I don't know, they can't hold me accountable. Not completely true, but my lack of knowledge of the way Parliament runs, to me, takes me out of the box and puts me in a playing field where just opens things up. I'm not bound by the way things have been, because that's something that I have heard in my heart, that I'm not to look at the way things have been done in the past, because that's not how they're going to be done in the future. And
sort of like a fresh perspective. You haven't been contaminated or compromised by the political establishment.
Exactly. And I'm not intimidated. And having come from the medical field, I worked with surgeons and I worked with all manner of doctors, and a majority of them have God complex. And I have more than once had a face-to-face conversation with a doctor who was trying to get me to do something for my patient. And my patient, I'm the advocate for my patient. So, and I know my patient. You kind of just whiz on by and you see all the patients, but I know my patients. So if I feel, or if I suggest that this is a better course of action, then don't just blow me off. Let's talk about it and we'll discuss it. Always respectfully and honorably, but still, I'm not easily intimidated. Your position, to me, is not what defines you. Your character does. And that's pretty much what I hold to in everything. That's why I'm not easily intimidated.
Yeah, I'm not really much interested in people's titles either, to the point where I have disdain for people who have titles. But that's another issue. I wanted to go to another audience question. Same audience, actually, Sue. She's asking, it's a very long-worded question. Sue, I told you multiple times to keep it short. Basically, she's asking about the media. Like, what's your position on the media? She's citing Viva Fry and his excellent coverage of the Freedom Convoy. But what do you think the government policy should be to things like mainstream media and the CBC?
Oh boy, I am standing so strong with Max. They need to be completely 100% unequivocally defunded. And you want to run, buddy, you run, and you go and you do your thing. But I think a lot of the independent people who walk downtown with their phones. I think the first one was the gentleman from True North, Harrison Faulkner. Love that.
Right. Yeah, I still like him. Yeah, he's one of the few that hasn't sold out.
True North, yeah, True North, Rebel News. I love all the independents. I love the truth, and I love when they are not afraid to say it. And I can't even watch. I don't watch CBC or Global. I don't watch them anymore. I can't, because it turns my stomach, to be honest. I don't watch any of them. There's one, I think she's CPC. She's got short blonde hair. I can't remember her name, but she talks like this all the time. And she always looks so forlorn and like the whole world around her is falling down. Yeah, that's what she looks like, whether she's giving good news or bad news. And it's just like, and also, oh, here's a really good point. During the pandemic, one of the videos that really opened my eyes to the legacy media propagandic machine was when somebody did a post where there were 30 different little television screens with
saying the same thing. Yeah,
all of them saying exactly the same thing, almost verbatim, at the same pace, at the same time. And it's like, and I saw that after I had actually started to see it myself, because at the beginning I was watching all the main newsstream newscasters, and I was going from one and going to another, and they were all saying exactly the same thing. And finally it dawned on me, saying, like, is there only one source of information for all these people? And then it turns out that there is, and it's called the Liberal government.
Yeah, in Canada, it's a Liberal government. In the U.S., some other places, it's Media Matters. Like they get their Reuters is a part of this.
Yes.
They get their what do they call it? The Daily Telegram, Daily Wire. So
Yeah.
they get the messaging and they know what words to use. So a good example would be Palestine. So if a Palestinian person blows themselves up and kills a couple of Israelis, that wire decides whether to call them a terrorist or a combatant, and then the entire media apparatus runs with it.
Just jumps right on. Yeah. Nobody stands on our own. Nobody stands apart. And that's another one of the reasons why I love Max. And it's really funny, but one of the questions that I've been asked is, PPC doesn't even have a seat in the House. PPC doesn't have a chance. And it's like, oh, really? And I said, in the last 4 years, we have seen Max literally change popular opinion. We started about 3 years ago, nobody being able to say that there was more than two sexes. We were forced to say that, identity was everything. And if they identified as a cat, we could tell them where to find the vet clinic, for all I care. But it's like, we were not allowed to go against popular opinion. And then Max comes on the scene and he starts speaking the truth, speaking it loudly and boldly and not wavering. And slowly, if you go back, you can watch how he has slowly changed popular opinion to here we are today, 4 years later, and we have got, over 800,000 votes? Over 800,000 people voted for us in the last election. People are now starting to get bold and starting to stand up and say, no, there's two genders, man and a woman. Men don't belong in women's sports. Men need to stay out of women's washrooms. And for heaven's sakes, take the tampon machines out of the men's bathrooms. Come on. And so people, in this 4 years, a man without a seat in Parliament has changed popular opinion so powerfully that I have no doubt that this election is going to be different. So if he's done that, if he's influenced that powerfully, how much more powerful will his influence be when he's actually in the House?
Our fellow colleague, friend, I guess, David Shostel, he says his funniest criticism of the PPC is people who say, I can't support the PPC because they don't get enough votes.
I know.
Technically, if you think about it, that's the dumbest thing. Well, they'll get votes if you support them.
Exactly. And actually what I've actually responded to some of the people is, if every single person that says they agree with the PPC policies stands up and actually votes for PPC, PPC is getting in the House. Liberals are dead in the water. if you notice, the only people who are saying that liberals stand a fighting chance is the propagandic establishment media. And if you watch the words they use, for example, the one I read a recent article that said, Mark Carney's campaign says that he's already raised $1.9 million. Well, I can say I've raised $10.3 million. That doesn't mean I have. But people, and just the way Mr. Trudeau said, I intend to resign. What a joke. So to actually believe what the establishment media are saying just shows that they're not awake yet. So we need to speak a little bit louder, a little bit stronger, and a little bit more frequent. Because when we get in the House, I kind of believe that conservatives are going to have the majority. I do believe that. NDP are dead in the water. I'll be surprised if there's even a seat for them come next election. I think liberals, they're going to have some seats, but I'm curious to see how many. But I do believe that conservatives are going to take the House. They're going to be the majority, but who's going to be the minority? I think PPC are going to be the minority. And I think that we are going to stand up and we're going to cause them to toe the line. We are going to hold them accountable, and we are going to make sure that they say what they're going to, what they promise they're going to do, or else we're going to shame them into it.
Man, a PPC minority government would instantly turn this ship around. Obviously 100%. A majority, but even if we got one I think their fear, the establishment, is if you get one PPC candidate in there, and just the psychological effect on Canadians to see the contrast between a rational, reasonable Canadian human being compared to these psychopaths in there right now. And as you mentioned, they're just wasting tax dollars in the parliament. I think that would like cause almost a constitutional crisis, definitely a political crisis.
Oh, for sure. It'll definitely open up some eyes, and it's going to change how the establishment looks. That's for sure. They're running scared. I mean, that's why they are preventing Max from speaking. I mean, who on God's green earth changes the rules just before the game? They changed the rules last year, or last election rather, but Max still won. Okay, he still got in, and he was still part of the debates. So they wanted to make sure he didn't do it this year. So they changed the rules again. And it's like, that speaks volumes to me. That speaks so loudly of the fact that they are horrified. They are horrified, just like, when people say that Max is Canada's Trump, 100% believe it. And it's got the establishment running scared. And whereas the blue went red in the States, the red's going purple in Canada.
The purple wave.
Yeah, the purple wave. We got to start the purple wave.
Deborah, does the name Ruby Dalla mean anything? She ran for the leadership of the Liberals, and they kicked her out.
Yep.
She came out. Is it Monday today? Yeah, it's Monday. So she came out on a space today. She was interviewed, and she said, this is an affront to our democracy that the Liberal Party did this to me. They're violating the rules. And I'm like, lady, do you really want me to have sympathy with you, sympathy for you, considering you're running for the party that just disqualified my leader? So where's the democracy there? You can't just use that word democracy when it serves your purpose.
That's right. But that proves, though, and if people, again, if they're not seeing it, it's because they don't want to. because that is so obviously, blatantly proof that it's fixed. It's completely, there is so much interference and so much game playing and manipulation that, as far as I'm concerned, she's better out of it, because they're going down, and they're going down, and they're going out, and Mark Carney. Yeah, I will. Okay, so I'm pretty sure Mark Carney's he's the chosen one.
He was the moment they announced it. Yeah, and I don't even know why
Exactly.
Chrystia Freeland bothered wasting her time.
Yeah. Well, her time and taxpayers' money, $350,000 to sign up, but they had to make it look real. You know, they had to make it look real. They had to make it look like he had a little bit of competition.
So David Shostel says Ruby Dalla has had a long history in the Liberal Party, but Sue, who co-hosted the interview with Ruby Dalla I mentioned today, says that Ruby did say she will announce her future in a few days, whether she'll stay with the Liberals or, there's rumors that she's going to go over to the Conservative Party potentially.
Well, she's very strong. She's a very strong woman, strong candidate, and I'd rather see her come over to the purple side, because she'd look really pretty in purple. Maybe I need to reach out to her and
I'm going to make a prediction. You need a certain type of character and composition to fight the uphill battle for the People's Party, because it's no picnic. No. And she doesn't have it. I think she wants the quick glory.
Yeah. I think that's a pretty good call.
Mr. Shostel, you're alluding to a scandal, but if you don't tell me what the scandal is, I can't tell the audience about it.
She was one of 100 of the Liberals.
Scandals, yeah. When you're running for the big party, especially the Liberals, because they control the media, they can really whitewash these scandals. Meanwhile, like if messed up on my taxes, you better know it's going to be all over the news.
Yep, exactly. It is very, very two-faced. Very, very. It's evil. There's really no other word for it. It's evil what they've done, evil how they behaved, the corruption, the conflicts of interest. How in this day and age have they been able to get away with what they've done? And I think that is actually one of part of my mandates, is the fact that there needs to be some parliamentary reform happen, where different rules and staunch rules, where everybody is held to account, no matter what position you hold, no matter what party you're in. And those rules should not be according to party, but it needs to be according to the law. And nobody should be above the law.
Canada's got to figure out what it wants to do. At this point, either we need drastic constitutional reform, because putting the law enforcement underneath the executive and the media under the executive, it's a non-starter. Or I don't know. There's no or. Yeah, no. Or it's over.
There needs to be some radical change. Radical. I mean, on my business cards, I used the word radical, and I said it's time for radical change. And there were a few people at headquarters were a little leery about using that word, and I thought, but that's what we need. And in the medical field, for example, I will use breast cancer as an example. When somebody has stage 4 breast cancer, we do what is called a radical mastectomy. We cut it all off. We scrape down and we get all of the cancer out, right down to the bone. Forgive me for the graphics, but we do, sorry, we do radical surgery. And that is exactly what Canada needs right now, is radical change. Since 1867, there have only been 2 parties in control, just 2, Liberals and conservatives, with the exception of 1917 when the Unionist Party won. But the Unionist Party was made up of conservatives and liberals. So that's all that's ever been running this country. And I kind of ask people, how's it working for you so far? And who is it that said the definition of insanity is when people do the same thing over and over and over again and expect a different outcome? Einstein, I believe it was, said that. It's like, we just keep doing the same thing. You know, we liberals, we let the liberals ruin us. Then we called in the conservatives to ruin us. And then we put the liberals back in to do it a little bit more, but in a different way. But it's just like, it's always the same thing. People need to open their eyes, realize that there needs to be a change if we're going to save our country, if we are going to get back to the foundation of that Canada is famous for: kindness, gentleness, brotherly love, neighborly love. If we're going to get back to that, we need to have a radical change. And it's time we take a few steps back. It's time to back up a little bit and work for the good of the people. People first. That's really where we need to head.
I'm reminded of a funny comment from Salim Mansour. He's one of the original PPC candidates, and he said that the Conservative Party, he calls it like a spare tire. Every once in a while, you get a flat, you change the tire, but you're still going in the same direction.
Yep. Yeah, that's a really good way to say it. Very true.
I'm just going to read a couple things and then we'll wrap it up. So David Shostel says that Ruby Dalla was caught withholding the passports of caregivers for her mother. I don't really know much. I've never known Mr. Shostel to lie. So, but yeah, if that's true, it's pretty bad. I don't withhold the passports of anybody working for me. Michael 2390, hi, great show. If you're looking to grow your channel or live show, feel pretty sure, Michael. I thought it was going to be about you, so I read it out. And Sue, thanks for keeping your last comment there short. Sue will be on tomorrow at noon Vancouver time. We're doing an interview. And I did not know this, but at noon Vancouver time is 4:30 p.m. Newfoundland time. Did you know we have half time zones here?
Oh, no, I didn't.
I did not know that.
I did not. Wow. Yeah, I kind of, I had to actually search how far back, because you're 3 hours, I think, 3 hours behind us, right? So what is it? What time is it there now? It's like
it's 5 o'clock here.
Okay.
It's 8 o'clock there.
It's 8 o'clock here.
Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, I'm very snobby and elitist. There's only 2 time zones you need to know: PST and EST. All the other ones are flyover time zones.
Okay, that's good.
Deborah, we're almost approaching 1 hour. Yes, Sue, we get it. You got the half time zone. It's 9:30 there right now. Can you give us your? I was joking, Sue. By the way, can you give us your contact details? Like, how can people get a hold of you? Social media, where can they donate, learn more about you?
Well, all my social media are listed on the ppc.ca website. And if, yeah, that's pretty much it. I would recommend that they go to the PPC, the People's Party of Canada, take out the People's Party of Canada.ca, and in the candidate section, you just put my name and you'll find all of my contact information there for Facebook, Twitter, X, TikTok. I'm very new to all of those. I've never been a big social media person, but I just recently got help with that. So hopefully that's going to take off soon too.
Yeah, I'm also a dinosaur, and I've started having to use social media. I feel like the old guy at the bowling alley trying to pick up little girls. Like, I just don't fit in.
Yep, pretty much. I relate.
Well, such is life, Deborah. Sue's, yes, Sue. Well, final question from Sue. She's asking if you're Ottawa. I guess she missed the first part.
I'm close. I'm an hour east of Ottawa. I
What
do.
was your riding again?
It's Prescott, Russell, Cumberland.
There you go, Sue.
Yeah.
So if you're in the area, Sue, even though you're in Newfoundland, if you move over, consider voting for her.
Yes, for sure. And if you have any questions, if there's anybody out there that has any questions, Deborah.Perrier@teamppc.ca. I'm happy to answer any questions. I'm there for anybody at any time.
Deborah, thank you very much for making yourself available. Thank you very much for having the courage to run. And thanks for jumping on.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate the experience, and you made my first time very, very, very easy. So I appreciate that.
It's a good platform to do your first interview on, because if you bomb, hardly anybody watches my shows.
Oh, do you know how many people are watching? Do you?
Yeah, the ticker counter thing says that you had 95 live viewers, and then it'll pick up later for people who watch it again.
Back after. Well, that's awesome. That's good.
No, it's 95 people that know about you.
Exactly. Thank you so much.
All right, Deborah. Take care. Bye.
You too. Bye-bye.